Interviews with business owners and veteran executives who share their wisdom and expertise to help you de-stress, free up time, and make more money. Prophets of IT.
Welcome back to the Prophets of IT. I am Jim Kunzenberger, your host, creator of the Managed Prospecting System. You're looking to generate new clients or partners without cold calling, ad spend, or spamming. Be sure to check out managedprospectingsystem.com. I have Brian Yeager with me today as the Prophet. He is previously been in the film industry, and now he's a Chief Product Officer. Brian, please introduce yourself. Tell us a quick bit about what you do.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. My name is Brian Jagger, and I'm the Chief Product Officer for a company called Athlyt, ATHLYT. Athlyt is in the name, image, likeness space from the Supreme Court ruling that happened about, it was, I guess, June of 2021, so almost 2 years ago now, that allowed for college athletes to do what everybody else could do, which was make money off their name, image, likeness. And so it's referred to as the NIL space. And so we created a technology platform that allows for businesses to work with athletes at scale. And so it is a little different than a lot of the other platforms. Our model isn't a one-to-one, it's a one-to-many. So it allows for businesses to say, we don't want to just work with this athlete or that athlete. We want to work with basketball players, or we want to work with football players, or we want to work with athletes from this school. And we don't necessarily want to focus on this one person by name. We want to work with the sport or the school or the area, and ours is all about grouping them into blocks and then aggregating them into social media campaigns at scale. So instead of working with one influencer that has 100,000 followers, you're working with 100 influencers that combined have 100,000 followers. So that's how we work in our model and what we're doing.
Cool. So what would be something interesting about yourself outside of work?
I think probably that, kind of got into this technology and product development from an unusual way. I came into it from you mentioned the film industry side. I still work in the film industry. I still do casting work. So like right now, in addition to being Chief Product Officer for Athlyt, still do some casting projects, still work on some film sets and commercial sets on the side, if you will, and still dabble in that and keep my finger on the pulse of the film industry to keep involved with that.
Cool. I heard that we could watch you on Amazon Prime. Is that correct?
Well, actually, not me per se, but a movie that I co-wrote and directed called Paranormal Prison.
Watch your work, I should say.
Yeah. I've got here's a copy of the Blu-ray here called Paranormal Prison. So this is on Amazon Prime, also on, I think, Tubi. So Amazon Prime if you don't want commercials, or if you don't mind commercials, on Tubi. And so then if you've got Discovery and want to watch repeats of I Almost Got Away with It, and I'm on a whole bunch of episodes of that as an actor, or back in the acting days. Yeah, so started out as an actor and then merged over into the casting side, and then also did some writing and directing, and still doing a little bit of that and casting. But through that all, found a need for better software in some of the aspects of some of the film industry parts that I was working in, specifically casting. And so I helped co-found a company that was in the casting space. And as a result of that, though I wasn't the technology co-founder of that, I got involved with the technology because of being in that company. And as a result, got interested in it, went and taught myself how to be a software developer. And now I'm a software developer.
Cool. So I guess shifting back to the technology business now, what would you say is your superpower, and how did that come about?
Yeah, I actually think it is the fact that I came from the entertainment industry, and I'm a writer, and I understand the user's journey very well because I came from it from that writing aspect. So I don't look at the creation and the design of software from as much the technology standpoint as I look at it from the story standpoint. And I try to think of writing software and creating programs as a story, and I make it more creative, at least for myself, and I view it as writing a script and writing that story, and I really enjoy that aspect of it. And I think that's one of the reasons why I've really enjoyed getting in the generative AI world as well. I've been working with the OpenAI API for a couple years back on DaVinci 2 or before that, testing that and playing with that, and really enjoyed testing its abilities and using it to create new opportunities and using it from the viewpoint of story and looking at prompt engineering as creating a mini story, going, okay, what's the character, what is the conflict of the character, what is the crucial climax of the story, and then what is the end resolution, and looking at kind of prompt engineering that way. I think that that's been kind of my superpower, if you will.
Cool. So if somebody wanted to develop this superpower, do you have any tips for them?
For me, it's going to story structure. Right. It's learning story structure of how do things get communicated in basic conversation, in film, in stories. If there's, I think the best kind of structure book, I mean, this is very targeted to the film industry, but there's a book called Save the Cat that is a script writing book that very smart, very intelligently breaks down how a script really hits these beats and it really hits these points. And it does such a great job of being very specific about, okay, how these opening beats introduce characters, kind of this emotional connection to a character and or the initial story points when a conflict is introduced. And now that's over the point of, 120 pages or 90 pages or whatever the length of the story is going to be. But if you take all of that and you break it down into smaller pieces, whether it be a TV show or a short story, if you start with the big and you go down smaller, it still happens even when you're looking at a landing page or you're looking at anything going through a process on software, or it's still all is relevant. But it's also a really bad thing for if you really enjoy movies and you're not the person that points out everything, because now, as I point out everything, my dog decides to look out the window right now. Once you read this book, you will notice these beats in every movie, because every movie will hit them at the same time. Even if the writer didn't write them the way that they are in the script or when they wrote the script in the book, eventually the editing will find their way there. But you'll start to notice, right at the 18-minute mark or the 20-minute mark, or depending on how long the movie is, there's that point. Or here's at the 2-minute and 30-second mark, here's when this thing happens. You'll notice how everything hits these certain beats in a movie and the pattern that happens. And then in conversations, when you listen to somebody tell a good story, which I'm not doing right now, you'll notice beats that make sense versus a bad story, which I'm doing probably a more proper example of a bad story right now. You'll notice the beats. And so when you notice those differences, a TED Talk compared to somebody rambling, again, like I am now, you notice the beats and how that presentation is going. And learning that, I have found when writing out a program, when developing out something, is so much better.
Got it. Any final thoughts on this?
No, I think that it's been an interesting transition to go from the film industry to software, but I have found that I'm not alone, which has been really interesting. And it's been pointed out to me that I'm not alone. I've run into more and more people, such as yourself or others, who have pointed out that they're noticing that a lot of folks who are coming from the creative industries and are starting to move into this, whether it be because of the technology that is infiltrating into the film industry or the creative industry, or if it's because it's just a natural kind of progression. But I'm excited to be a part of it.
Cool. So we got a networking moment here. Anybody that should be reaching out to you? And if so, why should they reach out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody who is interested in working with college athletes or pro athletes, we're working with pro athletes at scale. I'd love to hear from you at Athlete, Brian at Athlete, @@elyt.co. I'll be happy to chat with anybody about that, or anybody who wants to talk about kind of in the generative AI world, the AI world, and the creative aspects of that. I'm always open to talking about that as well. I love talking about how that world is evolving and the creation of opportunities within that world as well.
Got it. And if somebody wanted to look you guys up on the web, what's your website?
Athlete.co, ATHLYT.co.
Got it. Thank you for your time here today, Brian.
Thank you very much for having me.
Chatting with you.
Appreciate it.
Until next time on the Prophets of IT, I am Jim Hunzenberger, your host and the creator of the Managed Prospecting System. Be sure to check out managedprospectingsystem.com.
Thank you for tuning in to the Prophets of IT. Please smash that like button, subscribe, and share.